Welcome to the RetroWheelsVault, the JDM Vault, where revs hit red and legends are reborn. If it's got a Rising Sun badge, it's got a home here. Today we're diving back to 1965 to spotlight the Nissan Silvia CSP311, a hand-built masterpiece so sharp you could slice through time. RetroWheelsVault, now unlocking the imports that changed the game. Buckle up, this isn't just history, it's handcrafted horsepower. Here's a fun fact that deserves its own pit stop. The 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 was the very first car to wear the Silvia name. And oh, what a legacy it started. This wasn't just a car. It was the first page in a novel that would later be filled with tire smoke, sideways action, and screaming rev limiters. Before the Silvia became the crown queen of the drift scene with the S13, 14, and the beloved S15, it was this sleek hand-built coupe that introduced the name to the world. Think of the CSP311 as the classic grandmother of a rowdy rear-wheel drive family, graceful, elegant, and probably raising an eyebrow at how her descendants turned out. It's kind of like learning that the world's most famous punk rock band started as a jazz quartet. The Silvia didn't drift corners, it sipped tea through them. But without it, we wouldn't have the drift missile culture, turbocharged hooliganism, or midnight twos battles that define the later Silvias. So next time you see an S chassis lighting up a track day, remember, it all started with the polished, handcrafted coupe in 1965 that never slid sideways, but definitely turned heads. Grandma Silvia still had it going on. The 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 wasn't just a car, it was a sculpture on wheels. Born from a time when Nissan wanted to prove it could hang with the world's best, the Silvia wasn't mass-produced. It was hand-built, one graceful curve at a time. Based on the Fairlady chassis, the CSP311 traded the bubbly roadster look for something far sleeker and more tailored, like swapping out a tracksuit for a tuxedo. The bodywork was designed in-house but had clear Italian inspiration with razor-sharp lines, delicate chrome accents, and a low-sung profile that practically whispered sophistication. Each panel was carefully crafted, and with only about 554 units made, Nissan treated every Silvia like it was a custom order for royalty. Except, royalty with great taste in JDM coupes. Its minimalist grille and tucked-away headlights gave it a clean, almost smug confidence, like it knew it was cool before cool was even defined in Japan. While other cars shouted for attention, the CSP311 raised one eyebrow and nodded knowingly. It wasn't loud, it wasn't wild, but it was effortlessly elegant. This was Japan's first true sports coupe, and it strutted out into the automotive world like James Bond in a kimono. Under the hood of the 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 purred a 1.6-liter Nissan R-Series engine, a gentleman's power plant with just enough punch to back up its tailored looks. Pushing at 96 PS, or about 94 horsepower for us Western folks, it wasn't exactly a fire breather, but more of a smooth-talking jazz player, refined, confident, and surprisingly lively when the tempo picked up. What really gave this engine its flair were the twin SU carburetors. Think of them as the synchronized swimmers for fuel delivery, graceful, precise, and perfectly attuned. These carbs helped squeeze every drop of power from that modest displacement, making the CSP311 feel peppier than the numbers might suggest. It wasn't going to smoke tires off the line, but it would pull steadily and sweetly through the revs, like a sushi chef effortlessly slicing through tuna. This wasn't brute strength, it was balance and finesse. The R-Series engine may not have been a samurai with a war cry, but it was a katana, sharp, reliable, and deadly elegant when wielded properly. For a car built for more showing off than showing up late, it struck just the right note between style and spirit. The Silvia CSP311 kept things classic when it came to getting power to the pavement. A rear-wheel drive layout gave it that old-school purist driving feel. No front-wheel tugging or an all-wheel tech wizardry here. Just power sent straight to the back, where real driving fun lives. It was like a well-choreographed tango. The engine led, the rear wheels followed, and the whole experience felt delightfully connected. Backing up that smooth 1.6-liter engine was a 4-speed manual transmission, the kind that made you feel like part of the machine rather than just along for the ride. Sure, it wasn't the snappiest gearbox ever made, but it had the satisfying mechanical honesty to it. Each shift clicked into place like a katana sliding into its sheath. Simple, clean, and just right when timed properly. The gearing wasn't aggressive, but it let the Silvia cruise comfortably while still offering a little pep when you dropped a gear and leaned in. No fancy synchros, no paddle shifters, just you, a clutch pedal, and the open road. Like sushi without soy sauce. Raw, pure, and meant to be appreciated in its natural form. It may not have been built to burn rubber, but it was designed to make every drive feel intentional. Beneath the Silvia CSP311's elegant sheet metal lived the soul of a Fairlady, literally. Built on the SP310 Fairlady 1500 chassis, the Silvia shared its bones with Nissan's sprightly Roadster. But where the Fairlady shouted fun in the sun, the Silvia whispered grand tour with flair. It was like borrowing your cousin's dancing shoes, then showing up the ballroom with smoother moves. Up front, the Silvia sported an independent suspension setup, a sophisticated touch that gave it respectable cornering grades for the era. It wasn't track-tuned, but it hit on curves with a calm composure, like a tea ceremony held at 60 miles per hour. Add in telescopic dampers, and the front end stayed planted, even when the road got a little enthusiastic. Out back, things are more traditional. A rigid axle and semi-elliptical leaf springs did the heavy lifting, basic, dependable, and not exactly known for subtlety. It was a little like pairing a tailored blazer with work boots. Maybe not ideal for high-performance dancing, but it got the job done with old-school charm. This combo made the Silvia feel balanced, not too soft, not too stiff. It was a car that preferred flowing country roads to hairpin chaos, gliding with grace, rather than gripping with aggression. Step inside the 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 and you're greeted by a cabin that's more cocktail lounge than cockpit. This wasn't your typical bare-bones 60s sports car interior. It was an exercise in style, with a dash of luxury that made you feel like you were driving something rare and refined. Think Tokyo Jazz Club meets gentleman's drawing room. The dash layout was clean and symmetrical, with round gauges tucked neatly into the cluster like pearls in a lacquer box. Everything felt thoughtfully placed, no spaghetti of switches or awkward angles. The materials were high quality for the time, with padded vinyl, chrome accents, and a steering wheel that practically begged to be gripped with driving gloves. While it didn't have high-tech wizardry, this was 1965 after all, what it offered was craftsmanship. There was a sense that someone actually cared when screwing in those trim pieces. No gimmicks, no flashy distractions, just elegant simplicity. In a world where some interiors looked like leftover airplane parts, the Silvia's cabin felt bespoke, like it came with a jazz soundtrack and a glass of sake. It wasn't just about driving. It was about arriving in style, even if your top speed was more polite bow than samurai charge. Out back, the 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 kept things delightfully simple with a single-speed differential. No limited wizardry, no torque venturing magic, just a good old open diff doing its best to keep your both rear wheels civil during spirited cornering. It was the kind of setup that said, I may not be fancy, but I show up every day and do my job. Basically the blue-collar hero of the drivetrain world. This differential wasn't going to help you carve apexes like a rally champ or light up both tires in a smoky burnout, unless you hit a patch of oil in a prayer, but it made the Silvia predictable and easy to drive. For a lightweight coupe with under 100 horsepower, it was the right tool for the job, like using chopsticks for sushi instead of power tools. And when paired with the rear-wheel drive layout, it made for a balanced, no-fuss driving experience. Sure, one-wheel pills were always on the table, but that was part of the charm. The Silvia wasn't trying to be a muscle car. It was a graceful dancer, not a power lifter. Sometimes keeping it simple is the most elegant move of all, and the Silvia, it nailed the philosophy beautifully. The 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 wasn't just a beauty, it was perfectly proportioned like a tailored suit on wheels. Measuring in at 156.9 inches long, 59.4 inches wide, and just 50.2 inches tall, it had the compact elegance of a coupe that knew how to slip through traffic without breaking a sweat, or a side mirror. With a wheelbase of 89.8 inches, the Silvia had just enough length between the wheels to keep it stable in the corners without feeling like you were piloting a city bus. It was nimble, balanced, and charmingly low to the ground, like a cat ready to pounce, but in this case, a cat wearing driving gloves and a silk cravat. And weighing only 2,154 pounds, the Silvia was practically featherweight. It had the heft of a handshake, not a haymaker. The curb weight meant the Silvia didn't need a fire-breathing V8 to feel lively. It danced with the road rather than wrestled with it. These dimensions made the CSP311 easy to park, easy to drive, and easy to fall in love with. It was the kind of car you didn't just want to drive. You wanted to introduce it to your parents and take it out for sushi afterward. The The 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 was a car of contradictions, equal parts art exhibit and Sunday cruiser. Its greatest strength? Style. This thing looked like it was carved from butter by a Japanese artisan with a love for Italian flair. It oozed class and craftsmanship with hand-built bodywork that made each example feel like a limited edition vinyl pressing, smooth, rare, and worth collecting. Add in its balanced handling, lightweight design, and charmingly analog driving feel, and you've got a car that makes every drive feel like a curated experience. The Silvia wasn't about raw speed. It was about savoring the road like a fine cup of matcha on a quiet morning. But of course, it had its quirks. The 1.6-liter engine wasn't going to win drag races unless your competition was on bicycles. The single-speed open differential meant traction was more of a suggestion than a guarantee. And with a production run of only around 550 units, finding one today is like hunting a unicorn at a car show. Beautiful, mythical, and probably parked behind a velvet rope. Still, the Silvia's charm lies in its imperfections. It's not a muscle car, not a track weapon. It's a rolling love letter to craftsmanship. And that's timeless. The 1965 Nissan Silvia CSP311 isn't just a car. It's a rolling work of art, a handcrafted whisper from the early days of Japanese automotive ambition. And while it didn't breathe fire or tear up Tunge Rose, it laid the first elegant stone in the Silvia dynasty, long before Drift Kings and Turbo Beasts took over the scene. With its sculpted lines, boutique build quality, and humble power, the CSP311 is proof that sometimes the quietest cars leave the loudest legacy. It's a rare gem, fewer than 70 known survivors worldwide, making it more elusive than a clean AE86 or an unmodded S13. But even in its rarity, the CSP311 reminds us that JDM history isn't just about sideways slides and turbo whistles. It's also about craftsmanship, vision, and quiet confidence. So what do you think? Should the original Silvia be crowned queen of classic JDM elegance, or is it simply the stylish ancestor to the sideways legends we know and love? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear from the retro heads and the drift nuts alike. And if you enjoyed this ride through time, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more. Keep it boosted, keep it classic. Only on RetroWheelsVault.